morning. So I saw a post, and it was like somebody's bumper. It was a pickup truck, had like a thin blue line flag on one side, and the Gadsden flag on the other side. It's the yellow banner with the snake, says "Don't tread on me," right? And so, one's obviously, symbol of law enforcement and state power, and the other is kind of this classic libertarian symbol. And the person posting this says you can't have both on your truck, which I thought was funny. And to be sure, there is maybe a little bit of an inherent contradiction there. I recognize that, and it's somewhat humorous to me how, especially earlier in my career, a lot of cops tended to have a somewhat authoritarian streak. Like I mentioned, I was at Academy when the Occupy protests were going on, and I heard a lot of people say things about the protesters that were kind of rabidly authoritarian. Like, I don't think those same people would maybe voice those same opinions now, but there's definitely that tendency there, right? And so it's an interesting question, right? Like, are they mutually exclusive ideas, being pro-law enforcement and being, libertarian in some respect? Now, if you're, capital L libertarian, like you're, member of the Libertarian Party, the Libertarian Party is a political party, right? It exists in the system, and granted, they want to dismantle government as much as possible, and so, maybe if you're a capital L libertarian, there's some definitely contradiction in having both, and I'm not like an authority on the history of the Gadsden flag, and maybe there's some connotations to it beyond just the garden variety libertarianism that I'm unaware of. But I mean, the person who posted the image and said, like, you can't have both, like, the suggestion was that having a Gadsden flag means that you're of the opinion that 0% government is optimal, right? Which that is certainly abtrospective in the kind of broadest umbrella term of libertarian, small L or capital L, and by no means an expert on libertarianism either, but I mean, I find the concept interesting, and if you go, hard bottom right of the, political compass, ANCAP or anarcho-capitalist, I mean, there are certainly people of the opinion that A, 0% government is possible, and B, it is desirable. I don't believe either is true. The way they envision it seems much like the hard top left communists utopian ideal, which is, again, everybody kind of, behaves perfectly and everything will be fine. It seems like a silly fantasy to me. I'm sure there are some hardcore ANCAPs who would disagree with me on that. I think it is somewhat more realistic than Marxist communist utopia, in that, like, yes, you could have a anarchic system where everybody just, in a kind of laissez-faire sort of medium, engages in consensual, even contractual, behavior, and does it on a purely privatized basis, and there's no such thing as government. But I think that's a distinction without a difference. Like, anytime you create contract or rules that have some sort of agreed upon enforcement, you're creating de facto government. And so I don't think that's literally possible in anything but the smallest kind of micro interaction level. In the same way that you could have a a commune of a small number of dedicated people who are all, in tight alignment on how they want to operate their community. You could do an anarcho-capitalist commune as well. But you scale that up, and you're going to inevitably have either outside forces that are better organized under a strict hierarchical structure that leads to warlords and eventually city-states, nations, and governments, or B, the de facto emergence of some governing structure, and the fact that they're quote-unquote private is really irrelevant. Like I said, it's a distinction without a difference. So that being said, I don't think they are inherently mutually exclusive ideas. I mean, ultimately, if we're being pragmatic and talking about maximizing liberty, which I think is kind of the core tenet of libertarianism, or at least liberalism in the classical sense, in the John Stuart Mill sense, right? I mean, we want to maximize liberty, then we are liberal, right? In the classical sense, then you have to have police if you want to maximize liberty. And so I don't think those are mutually exclusive ideas. And I may be wrong about this, but I believe the Gadsden flag was one potential national flag that ended up on the kind of the reject list in favor of the Stars and Stripes, but it was something that was flown around the time of the Revolution, and as a patriotic symbol, and it's become sort of mired in right-wing ANCAP politics, but I mean, as a patriotic symbol, I don't think it should be any more controversial than was it Betsy Ross colonial revolutionary flag, and so I don't think it's on that basis like mutually exclusive with a thin blue line flag, which comes with all sorts of social baggage on its own, and people outside police circles, especially antagonistic towards law enforcement, seem to think it's sort of some sort of like right-wing militant symbol, which it really is not. And anybody who is in law enforcement sees that and recognizes it, as a symbol of support for law enforcement, just generally the career, the profession, the people who do the job, and B, a symbol of mourning when somebody dies in the line of duty. And people don't recognize that. Now, if somebody's got a thin blue line flag on their truck, that's probably not why it's there, so much as just the kind of broader respect for and appreciation of the sacrifices that people make in that profession. I don't put that stuff on my vehicle. I don't wear thin blue line stuff in public. I don't go out of my way when I'm off duty to advertise the fact that I'm a law enforcement officer, because I don't want to be working when I'm not working, even though I'm kind of always on duty, as most law enforcement officers are, even when they're off duty. And I don't want to advertise my vehicle to miscreants who would prefer to key my car just for having that particular thing on my vehicle. But that aside, I mean, in the kind of most generous interpretation of those two symbols being on a car, they're patriotic symbols. They're symbols in support of liberty, and I think law enforcement and liberty go hand in hand, in as much as if you want to maximize freedom, you have to have some sort of commonly agreed upon set of rules or legal framework that everybody can agree to. I have talked at some point about law enforcement being the recognized impartial third-party arbitrators of disagreements, and the mechanism by which your liberties are ensured and enshrined by the state, where the rubber really meets the road. That practically speaking, again, as a matter of pragmatism, functionally does not occur. We have not observed an ANCAP society, and we only have functioning liberal societies, that is, societies that enshrine and preserve liberty, where we have effective and reputable rule of law and enforcement of law by law enforcement. So ultimately, despite the maybe face value contradictions of the two symbols, I would say no, they actually go quite well hand in hand, despite any baggage that might be associated with either of them or both of them together. Excuse me. At least that's what I think, but I'd love to hear what you think. Am I wrong? Is there something I'm missing about both of those? Do you hate both of those flags? Do you think people should not display those kinds of flags? Disagree with me? Agree with me? Drop a comment below. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Inspiring and uplifting as always. It's been fun. We'll see you on the next one.